Arizona basketball looks to move on from that dreadful performance against USC. What does all of that mean for this team going forward here?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. This show is brought to you by Gametime. Check it out, Gametime. All right, now, Arizona basketball, just when you think that all systems are go, everything is good to go for the Wildcats, they come back and they lay an absolute egg. That is the best way that you can put that game against USC. There's really no other way to put it. Just think about what Arizona was doing before that game. You obviously had a very nice performance against, obviously against UCLA. You played really well against Oregon. ASU, maybe it got a little too close for comfort at times, but you still played pretty well there. And then this occurred. And let's be honest here. This wasn't one of those performances where you're like, all right, Arizona just doesn't want to be there, et cetera, et cetera. This was one of those performances. This wasn't a performance where it was like, all right, Stanford made 25 straight threes. Sometimes you just got to take the good with the bad. This was not one of those. Like I said, this was something that was totally inexcusable because it just looked like Arizona did not want to be there. And that to me is still the biggest problem facing this team, is that they didn't look like they wanted to be there. And that's what I think is very frustrating about this, is that, listen, everybody is okay with a one-off type game where something fluky happens, or guys just didn't play well. This was essentially a bunch of players that just, like I said, looked like they didn't want to be there. And I think that's what's frustrating about this entire endeavor, is you're like, all right, why are we at this point now where you're kind of wondering, what's going on? Do you want to be here? And that just can't be the case. Listen, you had the Pac-12 title already locked up. We all know that. But I still think it's confusing, though, for a lot of folks that are wondering, all right, yeah, you had the Pac-12 title locked up, but guess what? You're also going for number one seed. And that's where I think it's, a little bit frustrating with this group, is that, yes, if the Pac-12 tournament wasn't, or excuse me, if the regular season for the U of A wasn't already done, then I think that they would have smoked USC. But, it's like you guys just kind of checked out, and now it becomes a little bit more interesting because you don't have a total huge margin for error in the Pac-12 tournament. We're going to get to that here in a minute. But overall, though, just like I said, just kind of a disappointing performance, and I think it's something where you're like, all right, why? And that's just what I keep coming back to, is why? Why did this happen? Because you should have been motivated. You should have been, to the point where it's like, all right, we know we got to win this game. We got to be able to finish things out. And there was just none of that. There was absolutely none of that, the kind of that desperation that you so badly want to see from a team that is playing for a one seed. And again, it's not a perfect comparison, and I get this. We got this a lot on the postgame show, but people saying, well, this wouldn't have occurred, to Houston or to UConn. Yeah, it's true. UConn or Houston would not have had a let up like this. Now, maybe last year's UConn team would, because as we know, they all lost 6 of 8. They lost 6 of 8. Didn't look very good in the process, obviously. But that might have happened for sure. That could have definitely happened. But with Houston would just take your soul. They weren't going to look to they wouldn't look to mess around. And I think that's what Arizona, you're trying to get that killer mentality. And not only are you trying to get that killer mentality, you're trying to get it to the point where it's like, all right, this is basically, this is something that is super, super easy. We're not just going through the motions. We're going to go ahead and we're going to beat this team. And there was just none of that. And what's weird too is that watching the game, I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, well, generally, in Arizona, you're like, all right, they're going to probably hit them with a run at some point. And that run absolutely never occurred. And you didn't really even feel like it because it just didn't feel like they were engaged. It didn't feel like they were engaged to actually do what they needed to do. And I think that's what's a little bit frustrating about this again, is that they just kind of weren't there. It was almost like they did just kind of checked out to a certain degree. And that just really can't happen. That cannot really happen. And not only can that not happen, I mean, I think we're also kind of at the stage where that this could be a problem come NCAA tournament time, because again, you're gonna come across a team that is going to be good in the NCAA tournament, but you're going to come across a team in that 8-9 game that's going to be tough, it's going to be physical, or they're going to be super skilled. It's going to be one of the two, and you got to be ready for that. And if you're not ready for that, then you're gonna have a major issue. I do think with Arizona, the big part of it is, where are you at now? Where are you at mentally? And that's where I'm at now. I think Arizona is going to go out there, and I think Arizona is going to perform very, very well in the Pac-12 tournament. Again, I didn't really want this to have to be the case where, Arizona plays down to its competition, and then, oh yeah, by the way, now we're good to go come NCAA tournament time. Obviously, I did not want that to be the case, because that is maddening. That is very frustrating. But I do think that Arizona is going to handle itself very, very well in the Pac-12 tournament. And honestly, I want USC. I want to be able to get a rematch with SC. SC is a team that is obviously very talented, but they also haven't played well this entire season. I want Arizona to be able to get USC. And if Arizona gets USC, then I think that they're going to be in some pretty good shape. Now, part of it, though, too, is that SC just wanted that game more. And that's something that I think, I think was just kind of surprising to a lot of people, because you watch U of A and you're like, all right, granted, you already won the conference tournament or the conference regular season, but you're like, all right, you still got a lot to play for. And Arizona didn't play like that. And I think, again, for the millionth time, that's what's frustrating. But you got to remember this: Arizona probably can't play any worse than it played this past week in against USC. As a matter of fact, I don't know that it is even possible to be able to play worse than they played this past week. And if it is possible, I would love to see a worse, because I don't know that I've seen this team play worse this entire season. They were disengaged. They didn't look like they wanted to be there. Just a comedy of errors, and honestly, it was somewhat embarrassing. But USC, here's the great thing about basketball, especially in a spot like this: you're going to have an opportunity to possibly play USC right around the corner again. And again, I would hope that Arizona will acquit itself better. And we're going to talk about all of that. But first, Amazon, my friends. Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. As the kids would say, this is fire. Check it out. This is your sports destination. To learn more, again, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Another one where you will definitely thank me later, because this is where it's at. You've got all kinds of good stuff going on here. Sports, and we all know that streaming is the wave of the future. And not only is streaming the wave of the future, it is I think it's kind of a spot where you just know that it's not going away, and it's only going to get bigger. And not only is it just going to get bigger, it is going to get to the point where it's going to get to the point where everybody's using it. That's why you want to use Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. You will thank me later. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now we've got a lot more to get to this show. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about how Arizona was just kind of not really engaged, to be honest with you, against SC, and what that means. Now, Arizona probably played its worst, like I said, Arizona played its worst game of the season, and I don't even really think that it's close. But now the next thing is you got to get to the point where Arizona, you get back and you're like, all right, We got to get everything. We got to get everything buttoned down, and then we'll be good to go. That's where it's got to be, though. Now, let's look at some of the players and how they played. Caleb Love. Listen, we all knew with the Caleb Love experience that it wasn't going to all be perfect because Caleb Love is what you see is what you get much of the time with Caleb Love. And, that's what I love about it. But you also knew with the Caleb Love experience that it was not always going to be easy. And not only was it not always going to be easy, it was not going to be something where it was like, oh, all right, well, this is simple. So he played really poorly. And not only did he play really poorly, he also was, just from the field, everything not good. He was very, very bad. And I can deal with the bad shooting, but it was some of the turnovers as well that I think were very frustrating for so many people, including obviously myself, because some of the turnovers were just careless. Some of the turnovers were, here, you want the ball or whatever. And it was just kind of odd to me because, and again, there's no bigger fan of Caleb Love on the earth than me, but you also had a chance to really play for some real upscale All-American type honors, and you probably whizzed some of that away with that game. Now, again, I don't know that should necessarily be the case based off one game, but if you watched, it just was a very, very bad game, especially considering how well he has played all season. Then you look at Pelle Larsson, same thing. It's kind of like, where are we at, guys? What are we doing here? Because, again, Pelle Larsson, 5 turnovers, did not look good. And not only did he not look good, another guy didn't really look like he wanted to be there. And, I know all the jokes about RJ and this, that. None of that's obviously true. They just didn't play well. And then Kylan Boswell, kind of the same thing. Boswell, Arizona needs a good Kylan Boswell. He is he's the one that's going to make this one run. And if Arizona gets that out of Kylan Boswell, then the Wildcats are going to be good. But I think a big part of the frustration is that they didn't get that out of Kylan Boswell. They didn't really get anything of substance out of him. But here's also where I'm not really concerned, though. With this squad, I am not super concerned about Boswell because it didn't look like he was nervous. It didn't look like he was shying away from the moment. In the past, when Kylan Boswell has played poorly, it looks like he's nervous, like he's shying away from the moment, or that he's just not playing basketball that we know that he could play. This just looked like an off game. And again, he's going to have some of those. There's going to be off games that occur because, again, it's not like, he's a really good player, but it happens with everybody. It's also not like he's Mike Bibby or something, and it's like, whoa, wait a second, you're always supposed to play well. So there is that. I don't worry too much about it, though, because he also didn't look like he was out of place. And that's something that I think you worry about a little bit with somebody that's struggling with their confidence. And then, up front, I can't really complain, man. Keyshawn Johnson, we talked about it before, but Arizona needs a fully engaged Keyshawn Johnson, and Arizona is getting that. And not only is Arizona getting that, you're also getting a player who is shooting the three really well. I thought that was a pretty cool stat they threw out there about how he shot better or how he's made more threes this year at San Diego, or than he made it his entire career at San Diego State. But again, the coaching staff talked before the season that they thought he was going to play in the NBA, and so far so good on that one. He does, like I said, he looks really impressive, and he kind of, like I said, he looks like what a pro is supposed to look like, and I think that's what's kind of exciting about about Keyshawn Johnson right now. Now, a couple of the other players then that I thought also played well were Umar Ballo. Umar Ballo, leader of men. He did what he had to do out there. I mean, not only did he do what he had to do, he also was able to, gobble up his rebounds, get his points, and not only do all of that, but he was also able to, like I said, just play some pretty good basketball. Both those guys brought it. And not only did they both bring it, they also were fully engaged. And it just goes to show you, too, that, some of the concerns before the season were, all right, Keyshawn Johnson, or, during the season, Keyshawn, what's going on with him? We wanted more out of Keyshawn, and Arizona has now been able to get more out of Keyshawn. I think the big key for them the key for them is to continue to get that, because he's really kind of an equalizer. Again, I know that Arizona didn't play well, but when Keyshawn Johnson is out there and he's playing well and he's playing to the extent, or he's playing to the capabilities that he has, it just makes everybody else's life a lot easier. And you saw that again with Keyshawn. And I think going forward, that's something that Arizona is going to need, obviously. Then Umar Ballo, leader of men, he was, like I said, he was really good. And I got to give Mo Krievis a lot of credit. Mo Krievis, there's going to come a time in the NCAA tournament where Arizona is going to need Mo Krievis. Listen, we've all seen it. There is 1,000% going to there 1,000% is going to be a time where I don't know if somebody sprains their ankle or whatever the case may be. But there's going to be a time when, or foul trouble, when Mo Krievis is going to be needed for 7 to 8 minutes. And he's going to have to go out there and he's going to have to perform. Listen, you're not going to want to play him 35 minutes per game. I totally get all of that. I don't think anybody is saying that. But you're also probably going to need him for a certain amount of time. And I think from an Arizona perspective, it's nice when he can get in there, kind of get the juices flowing a little bit, and you can see a player that, is going to be really, really good. I mean, let's be honest here. Mo Krievis is going to be a problem in the next couple of years. He's not there yet, but you also got to remember, though, too, that he does have a little bit of that expertise around the basket. He's got some pretty good finishing skills around the hoop. I mean, I'm not really breaking any news there, but he can do some really, really good things on the basketball court. It's just about being able to continue to push that, accentuate that, and I think, from there on out, be able to, be a contributor, because I think that he's got all the skills in the world to be a contributor. It's just about continuing to make that adjustment, to continue to do that. But he's going to be needed. So in the Pac-12 tournament, I'm hoping that Mo Krievis can continue to show out to a certain extent. And I think if he continues to show out for a certain extent, Arizona is going to be much, much better for it. Because again, there's not a lot of teams in the country that can bring in a skilled 7'2" dude off the bench who can finish around the basket, can get his. There's just not a lot of players. There's not a lot of players like that in the United States. And he's an example of one that is. So that will be fun to watch him. That will be fun to watch how this all unfolds. But again, Arizona's got to continue to use Mo Krievis. Now, Pac-12 tourney is coming up. We're going to be talking about this hot and heavy throughout the week. Everything that you need to know. But first, game time. Check it out. All right, now, maybe you're saying, I'd love to go to the Pac-12 tournament, but I don't know where to get tickets. Thanks for asking. Game Time is where it is at. Download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. $20 off, my friends. And again, you will thank me later for it. Here's the great deal with it, with the Game Time app, is that with, like I said, it's not just for basketball or sports. It's for concerts. It's for basically you name it, they've got it. Check out the Game Time app today. Again, it's kind of a multi-use thing. Everybody is using it, and there's a reason that everybody's using it. It's kind of like LinkedIn to a certain degree that, it just kind of works. And not only does it work, it also is it's also something where you also know that, all right, I know this is good. And not only do I know it's good, I'm going to be able to get the tickets. So again, check it out, Game Time, which leads me right into LinkedIn. All right, check it out. LinkedIn, my friends, LinkedIn. Okay. Again, like I said, everybody knows somebody that got a job through LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. This is another one where you will thank me later for it. Again, you probably got a job through LinkedIn. You probably know somebody that got a job through LinkedIn, and it's because it works. Everybody uses LinkedIn for a reason. If everybody is using it, it's generally probably because it works. Like I said, get a job, post a job, whatever you need, LinkedIn has you covered. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats, and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now it's time for the Pac-12 tourney. All right, like I said earlier in the show, I want SC. Bring on SC. I think they're a good test. I would love to see Arizona be able to get some revenge against USC because, again, USC was very annoying against Arizona and how they beat us. I did not like that. But they're also a talented team. I think it's a good test. I think it's a good barometer going into the NCAA tournament. I want to play as many good teams here from here on out as Arizona can. And then the other teams that obviously to keep an eye on are a school like a school like a Stanford. I know some people don't want any part of Stanford. They are wrong. I want to play Stanford. And a big reason that I want to play Stanford, honestly, is because they are a really good shooting team. One thing about Arizona is when you play really good shooting or when you play teams, you want a team that you want a team that is going to be able to kind of push you, that is going to be able to, kind of bring out some of your flaws. Stanford can bring out some of your flaws. Not only can Stanford bring out some of your flaws, you can also find out how engaged you are. So again, with Arizona and Stanford, that's what I want to play. I'd like to play them, or because they're on the other side of the bracket, I'd like to play Washington State as well. Arizona obviously does not match up great with Washington State, hence the fact that they are 0-2 against them this year. I would like to see Arizona play Washington State again. I think that Arizona is more than capable of winning that game. And not only do I think they're more than capable of winning that game, I am, like I said, I am very much hoping that Arizona gets one of those two teams. I can't get both of them. But ideally, I want a tough route to it. I think because I've been saying this from day one. To me, it's more about what Arizona does than about what anybody else does when they play. Because if Arizona is fully engaged, they're going to be just fine. If Arizona is struggling and they're not fully engaged, then they are not going to be just fine. I think that is a very clear, I think that's something that's very clear from where we're at this point. So ideally, I want USC, then I want Oregon, and then I want Stanford or Washington State, one of them. Don't care. And honestly, I expect Arizona to acquit itself very well. Not only do I expect Arizona to acquit itself very well, I think that Arizona is going to win the Pac-12 tournament, and I think that they're going to win it with some margin for error. What my hope certainly is Arizona, did they take this win? Did they take this loss and say, man, listen, we got to be able to bring it. Regular season's done. We accomplished the goal of winning the Pac-12, but the postseason is now here. We've got to be able to flip that switch. And I think that's what's somewhat concerning. Are you able to flip that switch? Because we're going to certainly find that out. Is Arizona able to flip that switch? And if they're not, then Arizona could be going home early. And I think that's a big fear for everybody. But again, I expect Arizona to play very well in the Pac-12 tournament. I think that this is going to be a game. I think it's going to be a team that does very, very well. And not only do they do very well, I think they're also going to, kind of at the stage where it's kind of do or die. Tommy Lloyd, we've been saying this from day one. Tommy Lloyd's not going to be judged on the regular season. He's the winningest coach in college basketball history through the first 3 years of his coaching career. But his teams have kind of been poo in the tournament. He's going to have to change that. He's going to have to step that up. And if he steps that up, then Arizona and everybody else is going to be just fine. But that's going to be a big case as to how Arizona is able to do that. But again, like I said, I think Arizona is going to play well. We're going to start breaking down the Pac-12 tournament, all of everything that we should know and all of that, because again, there is a lot to know about that. And again, this is big for Arizona because that margin for error is kind of out the window at this point. But as always, have a very, very happy Friday. And, like I said, be safe out, or Monday. Have a very happy Monday. And as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. We will be back with you. Hold on a second. Where is this here? We will be back with you tomorrow.